10 இன்ச்சு முறுக்கு மந்த்ரா கடலை எண்ணெயில நானே பண்ணுது. ஒரு சேலஞ்ச். உங்களால இந்த மாதிரி முறுக்கு செய்ய முடியுமா? மந்த்ரா கடலை எண்ணெயில முறுக்கு செஞ்சு பாருங்க. ஓகே?
He is here as part of the Gurukul Chevening program, with which we've again, I've interacted before, and I asked him in the elevator down here how he was enjoying that time, and he said, "I'm a changed person." I said, really? You know, how is it changed? I said, wait, let's hold that. Tell everyone how has the time. So we are part of an institution. University in general that prides itself on really spirited and open dialogue and debate, and in particular at the Blavatsky School of Government, we believe that if you change government by just a little bit, you really are able to change the lives of many people. In India, of course, that's 1.4 billion people. So just give us a little flavor of how.
I'm glad that Professor, you asked me this question. I still remember when Professor Maya Tudor was in our class, and she made her point of view, and it's a well-known fact that as a researcher they have a point of view, and it is also a fact that everybody will have a point of view because we look politics very closer. I'm still in the game inside. I remember the long conversation both of us had over emails. I wrote an email to Professor and she was kind enough to reply to me, then I wrote an email. I believe that is the greatness of Oxford. And when you come here, you engage with anybody, even a great political scientist and economic scholar, and everybody sits in the same forum. That is a great thing for me. And fortunately, unfortunately, Professor, at one point of time, India was a great country in terms of education and learning, the Nalandas and the Taxilas, if you look at it, and fantastic places of learning. But somehow, colonial conquest, at different points of time, we lost many things. So we are trying to get back into that space where our academic centers can be world class. And in the latest world ranking, 46 Indian colleges have gone into the US world ranking. It was 11 previously, now we are 46. We want to get there. When we look at this eminent institutions like Oxford, we just pride that India should also have something like that soon, where children come here, they take all kinds of questions. You go somewhere, somebody is for Palestine, somebody is against Palestine, somebody is for Gaza, somebody is against. But when we talk to those kids, everybody has got a point of view, and it is not necessary that you should just shut somebody down just because you've got a different opinion. That is a big thing in Oxford. The second, for me, everywhere is the quality of resources Oxford has got. The libraries, the accessibility it gives you. And even here, and you are very kind enough, and respectable member of the audience, had a very different point of view with you, and somebody had a different point of view with you. And it is a greatness that we sit in the same forum, and then we engage, and we all have different points of view, but if I try to find a common way inside. This I see in Oxford day after day, class after class. But when I hear about Oxford outside, I have a different point of view, but when I'm inside, I have a different point of view. Third, but most importantly, I said I'm going back a changed man because I remember when economists wanted to do an interview of me, Economist magazine about 8 months back, I said I will not give an interview. He said, why? He said, look, you are biased, I'm not going to talk to you. He said, look, that is not the way to argue. I said, okay, if that is the case, we will do one thing. I'm opening my life to you for 4 days. You can tag along with me. Everything you see. After that, you ask a question, I will reply. And the reporter, a British reporter based in India, was kind enough to come with me, and 4 days he traveled with me. Then we both had a very engaging conversation. I don't want a positive or a negative story about India. We are not bothered. We are only bothered about a story with perspective. Yeah. So that made me wonder that maybe India is not represented very well in global forums, in Financial Times or New York Times or many places. Some of our achievements have come in these papers, papers that most people read. It is not that I can simply say I don't care what people in Zurich think, what people in London think, what people in Washington think, but actually you influence the money that comes into my country, the FDI that comes into my country is influenced. Go out, attack all the 3 indices. But all the 3 indices is a basis for World Bank to determine a country's governance mechanism based on which funds flow. And it is very important that one side I attack everything with data, on the other side we have also the humility to accept, to see how can I do better, to see how can I bring a better argument to the table so that everybody gets our point of view that is represented here. So I'm going back with this mindset that not necessarily to close our ears and shut out our eyes to criticism, but come back, have an open forum, go back. If there is something that we have to change, we are happy enough to change. No problem.
Well,
Of Trump, the American people have spoken. They have spoken with a loud voice, and after 20 years, the Republican president is getting a popular vote also. And they have spoken, and it is important that everybody with the humility to understand why they have spoken in that way. And a lot of experts, they say it is the revolt of working class people against the elite, and the language what they use, the horror of manufacturing, and they want a lot of immigration, economy, and property issues in their mind. So it will be unfair for me sitting outside to comment on the American voters' choice, why they made and how they made. So we have to accept that the new president has come. And 4 years, we have seen what kind of president he is. Now, next 4 years he has got. And we cannot just wish away America in the international politics. And whatever we say, it's a very big country, and it's a global superpower, and the biggest navy in the world, dominating force, technology capital of the world. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, top 50 companies, 32 alone in San Francisco. We just have to appreciate the fact people cannot just ignore America and do global geopolitics. So I hope it's great. The coming era, Trump mentioned a word that peace through strength, and I like that approach. I like that word. And even the current, the outgoing president, Joe Biden, had a very tough thing when I looked at Bob Woodward's War Book and I read it. And very complex space they're trying to navigate. You want to navigate a complex space, and it will be very unfair of me to sit here with my little experience to judge on what they did. But I pray, when he talks about strength, peace through strength, and Mr. Ukrainian president also welcome now. So probably the war will start coming to an end. The Israel has to listen to somebody, and the Hamas has to go back to where they belong, and they don't have anything to do terror on the innocent people. And the so-called state-supported forces have to go back, and they can't come outside. So a lot of things to do it. I'm sure they will do it. The Security Council will become a place where everybody's voices will be heard. And if it happens, then fantastic. If it doesn't happen, then I don't think it's a very good sign that a lot of problems are either created new or it is a continuation of old problems. Now, the way India looks at Trump's election, our Prime Minister has greeted very warmly the new incoming person. Our Prime Minister also enjoyed a fantastic relationship with the outgoing President Joe Biden. And India, they always had two cause for celebration. One, J.D. Vance, better half, wife is from Andhra. So again, India rejoices. Kamala Harris, she has got again a link to Tamil Nadu. So the village near Tanjavur is celebrating. So we are very happy. We are very happy that there is somebody connected to an Indian origin who is sitting as a vice president now and again a vice president now. So India maintains a very delicate balance between every single relation that comes in, because they haven't done anything bad towards India, be it democratic and republic. They are very conscious of the fact a lot of immigrants they live in the US, and a lot of Indian-based background citizens in America. So and they occupy very big portions there. So everybody is very conscious of the fact that India is a rising part. So they have treated us very nicely, and India is also going to do the same. And this is, I'm talking as an observer, as a citizen of this my country. Now coming to the question about women entering politics, ma'am, right now I can consciously acknowledge it is very tough for a woman in politics to break the class ceiling. It's very, very tough. US, 200 years and still counting, and probably they have to wait for another 4 more years to see a woman breaking the class ceiling. In India, it's very tough, I can acknowledge it. But I'm also very happy, the recent 106th Amendment of the Constitution, which says 33% of the MPs will be reserved for women, 33% of all legislative assemblies will be reserved for women. So in House of Commons, when we go to the Parliament in Britain, we see a lot of women voices. We see fantastic articulation happening here. I look forward to a day, possibly it should happen in 2029 Lok Sabha. Before that, everything should fall in place. 33% MPs, 33 plus, minimum 33 plus, women should start going in. That's the first thing. Second, you should some way get into politics. And there are many ways to get into politics, not necessarily be in the field. And now politics is giving you the option. You can just be a researcher. You can just give an input. You can be in social media, and you can contribute in different wings of the party, and not necessarily gone are the days when you got to be in the field. And now you can still sit in UK and do politics in Tamil Nadu, because technology makes it possible. I would only tell you, take small steps, take it for 6 months, see whether you're liking politics, you're able to contribute, you're feeling happy, you're feeling meaningful. Once you feel confident, jump into it. And of course, you have to convince your parents, your family, and everybody. It's a long process. But the country is really opening the doors. And we opened 50% of our panchayat is reserved for women. And gone are the days of husband controlling the wife because she is the panchayat president. Now we are seeing very clearly our mothers and sisters, they are sitting in positions of influence and dictating. So the ground is actually very good now. You just have to take that call, just jump off that cliff with a bit of boldness. Instead of already your lap is my thing. And secular state, I can.
Care about democracy? Is it just a buzzword, right? Is there something more about it? Look, the research really shows that democracy actually, in the long term, really matters for growth. And the reason it matters for growth is things that we've seen play out in China recently, right? So when you don't know what your citizens are thinking, when you can't hear them criticize the government, and that's a source of information. So when citizens can say to your government, this is what I think you are doing wrong. And it's not just about the involvement of elections, which are fair and free in India, but it's about the ability of citizens to organize and to dissent, and for media to be free. And so it's not just that these organizations have downgraded India into this hybrid territory. It's not just about the name democracy, because after all, perhaps the least democratic country in the world, the Democratic Republic of North Korea, has democracy in its name. So it's not just a name, it's a set of institutions, but it's the ability to criticize your government. Do you think that exists in India today?
I'm very glad that you asked me this question that go to Oxford now. And I'm very, very happy to answer this. I just hope and pray I get a little bit time to answer. That's very important. I have to put a certain context here. And yes, people measure democracy. 3 indices. The World Freedom Index measures, the Economist Democratic Index measures, and we have varieties of democracy measure. One is from Stockholm, one is from the Economist magazine, one is from US. Now, my critique of the way they measure always is, if you look at the World Freedom of Index, the World Freedom House, the way they measure, they say, after 2019, India's democracy has taken a turn for the worse. That is the word they give. And very specifically, they attribute 2 things. Removal of Article 370 in Kashmir and the NRC in Assam. The 2 things they clearly attribute. Now, for the sake of audience who are sitting here, they have to understand 1970 when the Freedom House Index started. It was done by one professor assisted by his wife for 20 years. As a single person, I just want the professor to just allow me for 2-3 minutes. I'll be very happy to hear your argument. 20 years, one professor. In 1990, the same professor who started this index, he said, I measure democracy in a country by my hunch and my belief. Now, all we are asking is, yes, everybody has got a right to measure democracy in a country. We want people to come and measure democracy, and experts like you to say. But the question is it actually measured? If you look at the Economist Democracy Index unit, it takes its value from the World Freedom of Values Index. From 2012, no survey has happened in India. So Economist magazine is forced to give 60 questions to experts who grade India's democracy, and Economist publishes that as India's democratic index. I'm only asking the audience and you whether it's a fair way of measuring a democracy.
Maybe it's not.
I'm just answering. I'm answering.
Yeah.
When you talk about freedom and other democratic index also, what we're trying to say, in 2019 in BJP's manifesto, very clearly we said, when we win, from 1952 we are saying in our party's manifesto, Article 370 and 35A, we are taking it back. It's very, very funny. A democratic index telling me, because of removal of 370, we are giving you a lesser score in democracy. Only after, ma'am, I'm putting the question. In England, will you accept a girl born in Scotland, if she gets married outside Scotland, she will lose her right to property? Will you accept it happen in India? A girl born in Kashmir, if she gets married outside Kashmir, she loses the right to property. Article 370, by removing, we have given her back the property. So democratic index should give us more score for removing this.
Your answer is about, to my question about whether democracy has declined as measured by the ability to criticize government. And you went.
I'm coming to the second part. It's very important.
Now let me finish, right? So you went to 370. It's not just about 370. Reporters Without Press, Reporters Without Borders, Press Freedom Index saw India drop 15 scores, right? So it's not just about Article 370. And I actually think, I'm not talking about policies now. And again, hypocrisy is there, but there's a clear correlation between, the ability of citizens to criticize their government and the information that government hears and effective governance. Like, this is well shown.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's a
my-
very important question.
Right, so my question to you, which is a question I asked also at the start, is do you think that there's space to dissent in India? Forget Article 370, forget the CA, forget the things that, right? I'm talking about the space to criticize government. Is that the same today in India?
We have to appreciate and understand, ma'am. We have to appreciate and understand. In India, anybody is free to, if you look at all the prime ministers in the world, presidents in the world, and who gets criticized most, I can say it will be Prime Minister number one. I'm not again talking parochial. People can call names, people can call everything, people can abuse his mother. Even when the mother is dead, people can abuse. That is the level to which democracy is there in India. Second, we have to appreciate, when you say that nobody protested, the farm law was taken back because we listened to the people's protest. We have to appreciate. And we are a country where our minority brothers and sisters can sit in Delhi, Artery Road, block the traffic for 60-70 days. Still they are allowed to protest because of the Citizenship Amendment Act. If they have a problem, they can always speak. And India, you just have to understand, it's a very complex country now. And the law and order is a state subject. What happens in Tamil Nadu? Tamil Nadu, for example, I as a politician have multiple cases against me, again for freedom of speech by the opposite government. I have gone to the Supreme Court and correctly stated. Now we have to appreciate law and order, it is a part of the different state governments. Police is part of that. And attributing everything, what happens in Bengal, oh, let me put it in Modi's account. What happens here, let me put it in Prime Minister's account. All I'm saying is, can India be 100% perfect democracy? I don't think any country in the world is 100%. Everybody is improving. All of us are reaching there. All of us are reaching there. But in the trajectory, when people say from 2014 it took a turn for the worse, and they start attributing 2019 when they start giving all this data, that is where I have a problem. When free and fair elections happen, people vote. A prime minister is getting voted back to power for the third straight time. That too happening in a very noisy democracy in our country. That too we got 240 with all humility we accepted. 20 parties together they got 240. It is unheard of in global politics. 20 parties together they got 240. One party got 240. But still they say BJP is loser. I don't know what mathematics people bring to the table.
Well, the mathematics are that 95% of charges brought up in the UAPA are against opposition politicians. So that would be, for example, one fact.
UAPA, Unlawful Activity Prevention Act, is a very clear act to prevent terrorism. That is mainly to prevent terrorism. And India previously had a very draconian Quota Act which is not there. NISA Act was not there. UAPA Act is there. So I'll be very happy to speak further on this, but 100% we can, anybody who is in India for a longer time, again I respect your point of view, you are doing very important work, your professors, we need critical inputs from outside, people who look at India with a fresh set of plates, absolutely no question. But my argument to both of you and to the audience who are listening here is, it's not a fair way to sit outside and say that it has deteriorated in our country and right now equating what is happening in India to 1976 emergency. Now, people speak multiple languages. It's so noisy and anybody can travel outside and people can come to Oxford and criticize India, the opposite party. Sachin Pilot is a very dear friend, is a fantastic politician, no doubt. We respect everybody's view. But to say that it has taken a worse after Modi has come, I don't think it's a very fair assessment.
Let's take some questions. I hope that we have a good number of questions. I expect that we would. So let me take, I'm going to take them in groups of 3 or 4. So let's start with this gentleman right here. I think you can just speak.
We're very clear, growth cannot come from a service sector for a long time. And what you see, 6%, 7% growth. If your agriculture is doing 2%, if your service is doing 14%, if your manufacturing is doing 6%, overall it might look great. But a service sector-led growth was there, which I agreed to it, which was there for a long time. Now there is a conscious push, but you want a manufacturing sector-led growth, you want to create the basic infra. And India, people want to transfer goods faster from point A to point B. Unless you have roads, unless you have trains, unless you have faster ways of transporting those things,
India might not become a manufacturing capital for many companies. So I would say, last 10 years, very consciously, the current government is building basic infrastructure. Now, answering the second part of your question, growth with jobs. Of course, this is a common argument that we have in Indian politics, especially with all the other political trends, also even this 2024 election. And we keep arguing at different data sets. For example, when we look at what we have done, what we have achieved actually growth with jobs. It has gone down to the smaller and medium sector. The Mudra loans is flowing, 24 lakh crore given. 69% of Mudra loan beneficiaries are women. So a lot of things are happening at the ground level. From the top, when anybody sees, yes, of course, it's a big country, 142 crore people, a lot of engineering graduates, a lot of graduates are just passing out every single year. You need to create productive jobs. That's a challenge for any government. But to compare a Congress era, a Rajiv Gandhi era, a Manmohan Singh era, probably a Vajpayee era to a Modi era, I would say each was a very different era. Now, what we are achieving is a faster growth, probably a longer foundation, a solid foundation. And very soon we want India to be a manufacturing capital of the world. And things are pointing towards that direction, but it's a work in progress, yes.
Would you regard the Make in India as a success story?
Ma'am, you have to look at again Make in India with a very different set of lens, an economic lens, a social lens, a different set of lens. When before the Make in India program, India was a net importer from China. If you look at the balance of trade between both the countries, it was abnormally huge, and every single product is China. And you have to find a way to come out after a point of time, de-link it, try to make smaller companies, try to create the culture of innovation, create the culture of intellectual property protection. So everything has to happen. So Make in India, I'm sure you will look at a complete lens where not only creation of jobs, but also creation of that ecosystem, also creation of that infrastructure, which will actually keep pushing. I would argue Make in India with a very specific focus that Indian companies have to grow. Unicorns have come, we have 114 unicorns now, which is not an easy thing. At 2014 it was 2, now we are looking at 114, and all of these unicorns are creating more jobs. That is why I keep joking. India's startup ecosystem valuation, $269 billion, is more than the GDP of Pakistan. And we want Pakistan to do well, we want all our neighbors to do well. Just to put things in context, the startup ecosystem of our country is just alone more than the GDP of Pakistan. The startup ecosystem, 110,000 startups now, and we are slowly and steadily, and probably the third largest. So I would say it is working, but you want to take all angles into consideration before we make a judgment about how Make in India is progressing. That would be my argument.
You all are applause with me in terms of having a good conversation. So there are two things that I want to come to my next question, which is about India's changing role in the world and its emerging presence on the world stage, right? In terms of the Asian century and so forth. Before I do that, I know that a number of you have your phones out and are recording, which is absolutely fine. But I neglected to say that we are operating here under Chatham House rules, so please do not post this on social media. Why do I ask this? Because it's actually very important to the ability of everybody in this room to ask fair and tough questions. So please, by all means, record. Just don't post, please, on social media so that we can keep this conversation.
Excuse me, can you clarify what Chatham rules is? A lot of people are from India, they don't know.
Yeah, sorry, helpful question, thank you. Chatham House rules means you are free to discuss the content of what we discussed today, but you do not identify any individual person as having said X, Y, and Z. So that allows you to talk about things that were interesting and things that came up, but without necessarily identifying people who may become in the world, especially in virtual worlds, as the kind of object of ire. Yeah? Okay, so this is the year of elections. We've had billions of people will have voted by the end of the year, and it's a world in which we potentially a changing world order. It is certainly a changing world order because China has massively risen. India is sort of poised for the largest kind of growth in GDP that we see among developing countries. And so along with that is enable or not. India is not going to enable incursions into its territory. It's going to not enable Pakistan to send terrorists to Mumbai. Right? There are certain things that you make decisions on things that you don't enable. So it's a nice soundbite, but what do you want to say?
policy other than, self-interest. Now, it might just be that self-interest, absolutely, while India is growing, we're not choosing sides, we're going to sort of pursue India's interest. And I think that's actually a fairly legitimate thing to say, but actually to spin out what does that mean for foreign policy, because the world is looking to India for leadership on this.
Yeah. Now, only thing is, we want the world to be fair with all the past. When incursions happened into our country, by China in 2020 and different points of time, why was it not spoken in the same breath like the Russia-Ukraine invasion? And the great powers of the world, and they try to make something if it suits them. Again, I'm not making a judgment about the great powers of the world. Russia-Ukraine, the way it is spoken, why not the India-China, the way it is spoken in 2020?
Yeah.
I hope and pray that countries, when they sit, they have a moral choice, they take it. And you cannot have an institution that is created post-World War II that doesn't represent a country well. And you expect India not having a veto power, and we are just a spectator. Once in 6 years, we get to be a member of the acting council. And then you also have to understand, man, what more can a country do? And when the Bretton Woods institution is just closed, and IMF defines what it has to do, the World Bank president is by rotation to a big country, and the Americans appoint the World Bank president, IMF president is appointed by the Europe always. And the fair question that I'm trying to make is, when people look at India for moral choice, the so-called big powers have to appreciate to the changing reality, the Bretton Woods institutions has to change. And without having power, how can somebody take a moral choice?
That's actually what I thought you were going to say. That a clear foreign policy would be a seat at the Security Council. And then let me pass it over to you.
So, people tell me, no, I've come into politics after 5 years, I want to do a business. But the label of being a politician is always with you. So my advice is take the time to think twice. Once you decide you want to jump in, get all these attributes in order. Financially, are you okay? And your family is okay with it? Because you getting into politics full time is a trouble for somebody. And these are the important questions. Last but not the least, go closer to your ideology. It's not always that you can stick to an ideology. It's not necessarily possible. And if you take British politics as an example, you have libertarians, you have conservatives, you have Labour, you have independents. So many people, when you look at their speech, probably it is not clearly that is what their ideology is. I would only say, go closer to your ideology. I'm speaking this with a lot of thinking. Whichever party you think closer to your ideology, that you are comfortable being in that party, representing that party, and probably very important, you should have a seat also open to you. Many seats in politics are not safe seats. I think the way in Britain it works is you take a tough seat, probably 2 times, then probably you get a better seat. India also, some seats are very tough. So it's a long process and a bit of luck as well. So I hope that students here, that they are in Oxford, one of the great school of government day. So I'm sure they will have a lot of tools before they make that decision. Yeah.
Great.
Great. So you referred to welcome to the Devaney School, and you mentioned talking about that you were not able to solve deeper problems, and that is one of the motivations that got you into politics, right? So thinking about sort of India's growth story, and I realize that you're a very young person, and I know some of this is even before your time, but if you look at sort of what is regarded as being sort of big.
Third question is very, very important question, very fascinating question also. And we always believe in politics, you exist to form a government, and that we should be very clear, and you cannot keep riding on somebody's coattail for a long time. In Tamil Nadu, we are bold enough to make that decision now. It's a long process, it doesn't happen overnight. And this time we have achieved a very important distinction of crossing a double-digit vote share, 12% now. It's a very competitive democratic landscape. More than 8 parties in Tamil Nadu have minimum 3% vote share at least. Even if you look at the 8th party in Tamil Nadu, they have 3% vote share. That complex demography. So we hope, being at it, giving the people the confidence that we are separate from these parties, more people will come towards us. And with respect to the demographic shift, yes, youth is always a harbinger of hope. And Tamil Nadu, we are seeing the shift of youth first. And women are shifting in a big way now. We are seeing that also. The so-called intellectual class, which doesn't vote much, this election, it was a hope for us. The so-called intellectual class, they came out, they voted in a big way across Tamil Nadu. So you want to tap into all the 3 segments in the coming elections also. Again, I say, it's not going to happen tomorrow, it's not going to happen 2025. It's a long process, but we are well prepared to stay in the game for the next 10 years, to build a huge base for ourselves. And people should have the confidence that standing alone next election, you will not go back for another. It's a very important politics. You do it and all the hard work goes to a waste. And Venkatraman sir, choice of joining BJP for me was a very simple choice, sir. One, I'm a very hardcore nationalist, meaning nationalist in Western part is understood very wrongly. But again, to clarify it, nationalist means a country who wants a person who wants a strong country, not very parochial to say my state comes first, not too parochial to say my region comes first, to say my country comes first. I have natural choice. Second, I'm always a big admirer of Modi, and I'm very open about it. Sometimes the leader attracts you more than the ideology. So I felt at this point of time, all of us should stand with Modi and contribute to his vision. So for me, it was a very easy choice. A foreign land, that India is a secular state. We are very clear right from the day of independence. Even you will acknowledge this, that the minorities should be treated fairly, and everybody is clear about it. And being a majority of 87%, it is a very unique country, because when all our neighbors chose to go the religious way, theocratic way, we decided that we will go the secular way. We are still maintaining it. But it is the unfortunate part that whether the temples and the places of worship is treated equally, that is not so the case, especially in Tamil Nadu. I look forward to a day, because this is a party's question. I'm very happy to say this in the forum also. The day BJP gets elected to power in Tamil Nadu, the day one we will release temples from state control. We believe churches should not be controlled by state, mosques should not be controlled by state, likewise temples should not be controlled by state. We are very clear about it, because true secularism means you treat everybody fairly. That is our party's position, and we are moving towards it. A certain amount of momentum is being built among the public.
So I know